Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the ghost,
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
Yeah.
You know.
He's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
Is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Pert Near Outdoors podcast with your host, Billy. We are waiting here for our host tonight, Kevin Vistisen, to jump on. We're just trading some messages with him. Apparently, I goofed up the invite with the link. I'm thinking it's his fault, not mine, but he's not on here yet, so we'll blame that on him right now. So while we're waiting for Kevin to jump on here, going to give everybody an update with what's going on with the Shedfest timeline. Have everything sent off to Russ for the shirt order, and I wanted to get the shirt and everything finalized before I post it up on the website for sale so that we can get the Shedfest started and get everybody into the raffle is what it's going to be this year. So be patient with me. I hope to have it wrapped up here and posted up online by the weekend. Russ had the stuff on Monday, so I think I'm pretty confident I'll have the mock-up of the shirt, and we'll have the shirt order placed and pricing and all that stuff figured out by the weekend. So we got that going on. Very much. Joe, I see your question there. We can hit on that. Joe just asked a question on the chat board about what's going on with EHD in New York. We talked a little bit last week on the show about that. We had Frank Maresco from downstate. He said he's in Orange County, but he's been kind of keeping me in the loop with what he's seeing with EHD down that way. So we talked quite a bit last week about it, actually 10, 15 minutes. But it sounds like it was definitely an issue this past summer and in through the fall. Early fall up in the Albany area, up in eastern New York. It was very dry, and it sounded like there was some issues popping up around central New York with that as well. So trying to kind of keep our tabs on that. And I know I talked on the show as well that we had found a few deer dead on our property that was kind of out of the ordinary. All three of them were bucks. They had no visible injuries. So we're kind of just watching to see what's going on with that. That was later on into deer season, so I don't believe that was EHD related, but I guess time will tell as we kind of continue to watch and as we're out hiking this winter, scouting. I personally have not found any dead deer, carcasses, things like that. So in the areas that I hunt, I don't believe that we've been hit with that directly, but I'm not sure. We will see. I see we got Frank jumping on there. Thank you, everybody, for the engagement. Well, while we're waiting for Kevin, I'll promote you, Frank. See what you got to say. Frank, let her rip. What do you got, buddy?
Okay, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Yep. Hello. Hey, great Bills victory. Looking forward to Saturday night.
Hell yeah, buddy.
I hope they play better offensively than they did against the Jets. But a win's a win. Hey, I don't want to be EHD expert. I hate EHD, but. If you go to the Cornell Cooperative, they just updated the map in January.
Nice.
And it's for where it is and suspected and ones that have come positive with EHD. And it's in a lot of states, a lot of counties. I mean, I've seen it in St. Lawrence, Jefferson, Oswego, Cayuga, Wyoming, Steuben. It went from, it's throughout the whole state. If you going by their map, as far as dead deer reported, confirmed cases is a lot less, but in my book, if there's a dead deer in July, August, or September, especially if there's more than one dead deer, it's going to be EHD. That's my unscientific answer.
Well, I appreciate that. To me, that there is some value there in what you're seeing and what your impact is. I'm sorry, I'm like multitasking here. Kevin is texting with me trying to figure this out, but yeah, I appreciate you keeping an eye on that, and it's something that I really don't pay that much attention to. I should pay more attention to it. So sounds like Cornell's got some good insight there for anybody that wants to look further into that. So
yeah, they seem to be the leaders in, as far as tracing it and showing. I think they had over 2,000 dead deer in New York reported. There's a form you can report it. I mean, obviously not now, but there's a form on the DEC website to report any dead deer you find.
all right, maybe we should probably do that with the deer that we found on our property. That would be the right thing to do. We just weren't sure exactly who to contact and didn't look far enough into it. So it's probably not too late to report that.
In the fall, probably around October is when the form was live.
Okay. We will check that out.
All right, that's the EHD expert.
EHD
I'm
update from Frank from Downstate. We appreciate it. Hey, where did you want that gift card for? You never responded to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you send me something?
I sent you an Instagram message.
I don't check that after hunting season. I'm not a real online guy.
Okay.
I'll Instagram you my email. How's that?
Yeah, perfect. Send me your email and what store. I know Cabela's is the one I've been getting people cards for. So
I just bought a new crossbow. I could have used it.
Son of a. That's on you, man. You just failure to communicate. That's your fault.
All right. I'll buy more bolts as I lose them.
There you go. Hey, the Huntworks is carrying crossbows now. They just went to ATA last week and got hooked up. So check them out on their website. They might have some of that stuff on there.
I don't want to badmouth a manufacturer, but I have one that you don't want to buy.
All right. Yeah, not the time or the place. Yeah. Good stuff, Frank. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Stay well. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
We have had the failure to communicate. I think I sent Kevin the completely wrong link for the show, so hopefully he gets tuned in here soon enough. It's my fault. I was all excited to get Kevin on here, and I totally fucked up. So I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry for the language. I'm emotional about it. What can I say? So in the chat board there, I see some of our regulars. Mr. Dunnigan's on here, hardworking sumbitch. We got Eric Redder tapping in, all the regulars. Rob, hey Rob, how are you, buddy? No, disappointed, not surprised is pretty appropriate. Yeah, that's about what I do. Is high expectations, low output. That's what I'm known for. We'll see what happens here. So anyway, we got Shedfest coming. Keep tight with us on that. I will be posting as soon as that goes up. Last week, I'm happy to report that during the show, I was fully coming down with the Rona. So the whole family caught the Rona last week, and we have all made it through that, and we survived, and no issues here. So aside from the fact that staying at home with your entire family for 7-8 days is pretty brutal when you can't go anywhere and do anything, and it's nasty weather out. That was not enjoyable for the whole clan. So it is what it is. But we are, what the freak, son of a pup. Is there anything any of you guys want to know that maybe I can dive into? All right. Well, Mr. Dan Dunnigan, why don't you call in, Dan? Tell us what you saw at ATA. That would be valuable for the listeners here, what you guys have got going on while we try to get Kevin on. Daniel, give us a call, Dan. Daniel.
What's going on, Billy?
Not much. Save me. I am just failing awfully tonight. Son of a bitch. So how did
Well-
ATA go? Did you guys have a good time?
We did, yeah. It was, it was our first time going to the show. It was kind of a good show to get to because it was only 50% capacity, so it was nice not bumping elbows with everybody at the popular booths and actually getting to talk with some of the the manufacturers, the owners. It was a lot of fun.
Good. So were you guys? I mean, I kind of know the answer to this, but you guys went out there and you made some connections with a bunch of different businesses, and are looking to bring on some new product into the store. It looks like.
Yeah, so we went down there with the intent of establishing and kind of growing our current relationships with Millennium, River's Edge, Banks, Grizzly. The products that we stocked this year. But we had a lot of customers come into our store this year and want a little bit more. With Dick's leaving the space and with people not wanting to go to Sportsman's Warehouse or drive all the way out to Bass Pro or Cabela's, they wanted us to start carrying some more product, and we felt the best option for that was crossbows. It's been growing significantly in New York. New York is actually, I read a study a couple weeks ago. New York is one of the only states that crossbow kills haven't outpaced compound bow kills yet. But it's trending that direction. So we thought, it's a great outlet for us to start to provide people in our area, a good shop to go and test out a bunch of different crossbows, see what it is they like, actually put their hands on some rather than just, buying something off a website and praying that it's the right one for them.
Yeah. It's really cool that you guys are jumping into all those different things. I mean, it's kind of wild. It's basically a little bit less than a year that you opened up that business, and my God, has it evolved into a lot of different things. And just browsing your website today and seeing some of the different products and brands you're going to be carrying there, it's pretty cool. And I'm excited to be along on the ride with you to help support you guys to get the word out there and grow the business.
I attribute it all to you, Billy.
Oh, stop it. Yeah. My family is certainly in it to win it with you. So hopefully we can see this thing continue to grow. But if it's like anything else you guys have done as a family, it seems to be pretty successful. So looking to help you guys grow that. So excited about it.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we've enjoyed it. So hopefully it'll continue growing, and who knows what it could turn into. I mean, like you said, it's been a kind of a whirlwind the past 6 months.
It has, but here we are. And I'm done with you, Dan. I appreciate your time, but we've got the man of the hour on, so I'm going to kick you off.
All right. See you, Billy.
All right. Thanks for bailing me out.
Again.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Kevin.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you, sir.
I'm working on getting a video thing situated here. For whatever reason, it won't turn on, so I'm digging down into some preferences here.
Gotta love it. Failure to communicate. I think I sent you the not just the regular guest link. What a
that's
rookie move.
That's what it was. And then you sent me those emails for whatever reason went to my junk. I had to go run in there and find them. So privacy, security. You ever had that issue where the video won't?
No. But sometimes it's finicky. I guess if you let me, I can remove you, and then if you want to try to come right back and see if that works.
I don't. I'm wondering. Sometimes for whatever reason, I try to run things through Safari, and it doesn't do so hot. I might want to try to but
maybe Chrome or.
That's what I was thinking.
Or DuckDuckGo. I don't know if DuckDuckGo will even work with it. I just use Chrome.
I'm gonna try Chrome.
All right.
Give me 2 seconds.
Roger. Waiting.
All right.
You're all good. All right. So Kevin's just getting himself situated. We have connection, which is a good thing. Let me check Facebook. I think we got the Facebook stream up and running too. I'm lost without my co-host Dallas and Big Jim. Not that they make this any easier, but Uncle Dallas had a long day, and Big Jim he's had some long days too. So if anybody's got any topics they want Kevin and I to jump into tonight, feel free to drop them down in the chat box. We're going to kind of jump into a whole bunch of different stuff, see what Kevin wants to talk about. All right, I got you back.
Yeah, I got your turn video on. It just doesn't seem to want to do that.
Well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We can just talk.
That's fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. We're like
That's okay,
20
man.
minutes late.
I'm guilty as charged as not being super tech savvy.
Yeah.
Like, kind of the latter.
Yeah, it seems like this we've really enjoyed using this Bullhorn platform. We've been using it for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now. And it's a lot of fun, but it seems like it's kind of clunky if we don't get in ahead of time. And then sometimes even when we get in ahead of time, we have some issues with people getting certain things to work, and, you know, whether it's parameters or safety things you got on the computer, whatever it is. So, you know, you kind of got to just go with the flow, but it's really cool to have people be able to call in and message if they got questions and things like that. So,
yeah, it is cool, for no doubt about it. I was listening to your guys' conversation, and yeah, it's super interactive. I like that about it for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. So welcome to the show, man, and I'm excited to get you on. I've grown to be a pretty big fan of yours, so it's I've been chasing you around. I know we've both been very busy, and then you get into deer season and you kind of hunker down to your core group and focus on that. But excited to get you on. So anybody that doesn't know, I think a lot of people listen to our podcast probably cross over and listen to yours as well. But you're the host of the Deer Hunter podcast. You're local out of Michigan, and I kind of wanted to just kind of talk a little bit with you about kind of podcasting and how you got started with the podcast. I was listening, recently, and I think you mentioned you'd been doing it for about 5 years, and I kind of wanted to start there and kind of just hear, because I kind of stumbled onto you. I'm not even totally sure. I think it was through Instagram. I stumbled on to your show, and then you were doing a live video one night, and it popped up on my phone, and that's kind of how I started following along with you. And that was spring of 2020. So ever since, I've been locked right onto your content. But there was a lot of stuff that you had done in the past before that. So I'm kind of curious about the back end history of you and why you got into podcasting.
The reason I got into podcasting is because I found it one of the better mediums that I'd ever come across for learning. I'd never had the patience or the attention span to be able to sit down and read lengthy, just lengthy reads, essentially, without just my mind wandering, losing interest, not being able to stay focused. And obviously that's a valuable way to learn is reading. But when I came across, podcasting and then books on tape, it worked awesome for me because I'm a service technician. I drive a lot. I work by myself a lot. So I was able to just, get sucked into those. And I found it myself just growing, at a rate that I hadn't in the past, due to the education that I was getting and the content that I was sourcing. And I just enjoyed it so much that I kind of wanted to be part of, I always say, just kind of like a spoke in a wheel of information. And that's kind of always been a big part of what I do, is just trying to tip people off to things that I'm learning through and grow and build a community and help put other people on track to get good content, really. And if that happens to be us along the way, then that's real cool, so that's about it.
Yeah, it is. And I think you do being that I've kind of jumped into you just in the last couple of years, I wonder if did your podcast kind of start out the way that it is now, or did it, did you ever imagine that it would grow to the point where it is, where you've got one of the larger deer hunting podcasts, in this kind of realm? Did you kind of start with that in mind, or did you just kind of want to see where it went from there?
Yeah, typically when I get focused on something, I usually commit to it at a sometimes almost even at a fault, to be honest with you. If I say I'm going to do something, even if it at some point doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I'm just pretty bullheaded in that regard. As if I get an idea in my head, I'll usually follow through with it. And yeah, I had, reached out to quite a few different companies and partners and told them how I was going to do this and what I imagined it was going to be and what I wanted to build it to. And, that I thought in return they'd find a lot of value in, financially supporting us and getting us up and running. And, higher profile individuals. So I felt pretty obligated to follow through on my statements, and that drove me for quite some time. And then, at some point, I cleared all of those responsibilities and obligations that I had fulfilled to those people. And then I was kind of free to go about and do whatever I wanted to do. And I really can't say that I've changed a whole lot. It's been harder, much harder, and a much bigger challenge to find the time to be able to allocate towards this, just given the position that I'm in my personal life, family commitments, work a lot of hours. When I started doing this, my wife was pregnant. We didn't even have a kid yet. Now we have 2 kids.
Right.
I used to work 40 hours a week. Now I work 60 hours a week. And so my time has just become, honestly, is extremely valuable to me and obviously to my kids. So that's just one of the bigger challenges and changes, is that it's a lot harder to get together and allocate the time. I kind of always feel like I'm scrambling, but I accept it. And my mentality when I went into this was I was going to maintain a marathoner's pace. I wasn't going to force anything. Like you'll hear a lot of people in this space say, can't miss a week, can't miss a week, can't miss a week. And I can miss a week because I can't burn myself out, and I can't just throw other responsibilities and priorities to the wind. And although we really do crowdfund the whole thing, to be honest with you, it's been years since I've signed any kind of agreement with any kind of company as far as them giving me finances to run this platform. It's all crowdsourced through the listening audience, which, comes with its own challenges. It's very difficult nowadays to ask people to pay for content, but we're just so fortunate to have a loyal group, and that I think they respect the fact that we just we refuse to blow smoke up their asses.
Yeah.
And it might not always be the popular opinion, but our listening audience always knows that we're going to speak how we truthfully feel. They don't have to sift through our opinions and try to figure out where our stances are. And I've always kind of lived and died by that saying, like, I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not.
Yeah, and amen
and
to that. Yeah.
It just continues to organically grow. And we have, like I said, a great core audience. Been doing it for 5 years now. And when I was saying about missing the week, that doesn't go without a sense of guilt, because, like I said, these guys are actually chipping in finances every month so that we have the ability to curate and produce the show. And so I do feel an obligation to provide that content, but I feel, and I think that's understood, of the position that I'm in, and I'm not super tempted to like throw some half kind of ass thing together just to have an episode, to say we had an episode. I'd personally rather try to wait a couple days or a week to be able to put something good together that, the guys are getting their bang for their buck, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, people can see through the bullshit. And I think that's one thing that's happening right now as we live, is that people are starting to see through it. And that's one of the things I value about you and a lot of the other podcasts that I listen to, is I seek that content. I want to hear people talk about what they really think. And you can tell pretty quickly if you're listening for it, whether someone's being genuine or not. And if what they're, that sounded beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do you got over there? I can't see you. I'm wondering what you're drinking.
Yeah, dude, I just cracked open Founder's Centennial IPA. It's a IPA here out of Michigan. Kind of a fan favorite.
I didn't know Founders was out of Michigan.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yep, right out of Grand Rapids. I used to live about 15 minutes from there and find myself in there quite often.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I'm curious a little bit about so you travel, you said that, and then you just said, you find yourself in Grand Rapids quite often. I don't know if that's for work or whatever, but it's, you and I'm a salesperson. You're a service technician. I travel a territory. I'm sure you somewhat travel a territory. My brother is a service technician as well and drives all day long by himself and works by himself on diesel engines. And it's like, I don't know what people do if they're not listening to podcasts. Like I find so much value while I'm driving around and while I'm working. Like I'm always learning. I'm always taking stuff in. I'm always educating, and like that's one of the, I don't know if I'd want to give that up in my daily life. I love that freedom and being out on the road and being able to just do what I want to do, listen what I want to listen to, and spend my time that way. So are you on the road every day of the week, or you go to an office, or?
I haven't been to my office in, I don't know when the last time. I'm trying to think the last time I was at my office. I live about an hour from my shop, and I do go there to pick up materials, get like if it makes sense logistically to pick up apprentices. But for the most part, I'm pretty much dispatched out of my house, and then I kind of have a service territory of like 2 hours of any direction, basically, of my house, and on some circumstances, I'll get sent farther than that for some specialty things. But I get thrown all over, and I get email every night that tells me where I need to be and when I need to be there first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And so I am a commercial industrial plumber out of the local 98 out of Detroit. Specialize in like a lot of hospitals, medical facilities. We do a lot of work for DTE, for other service, big, utility providers. We have some really big, really nice contracts. I'm fortunate to work for a family-owned, extremely reputable business that, for the most part in our area is kind of known as the premier plumbing service, commercial industrial shop. And so, I get dispatched out of my house, and I go and do whatever I have to do. And I don't know, if that day is going to be a 6-hour day or an 18-hour day. Everything just kind of gets thrown at you. Like after you finish something up, they send you something else. And for that reason, a lot of guys don't like that line of work. They'd rather work in construction, where they know they come in at 7 and they get off at 3:30, and they know what they're going to be doing every day. Is the complete opposite of how my week goes. So it's always just kind of shooting from the hip, and got to be extremely flexible. But a lot of windshield time, and then I might get on a job site, get figured out what I have to do. If I don't have guys working with me, then I have headphones in, and that's basically what I'm doing all day, is listening to podcasts and books on tape, things of that nature. So it's freaking mirror image of my brother. Jimmy is I was just talking to him today, and he's so backed up. Like, work is wild right now, because I know you guys were basically at the same latitude, right? Or the longitude. We're at the same longitude, right? On the same plane. We're Buffalo. So we're about the same. Kind of get a lot of the same weather, I think. Yeah, right.
But man, it was brutal cold earlier this week, and so we work in school buses, and all the schools, their buses just had a rough few days, and so Jimmy's a service technician on the road, and I was talking to him today, and we're putting a new business system in right now, and he's like spending 9 hours on training, sitting at home, and he's like, dude, I have so much work to do. He's like, I don't even know when I'm going to get it done, because I have to sit here and do this, and I've just got people calling me left and right, stacking up jobs on my list of places to go. But You know, to your point, like it's a really cool lifestyle to have. You know, you're basically on your own. You're your own boss. Nobody's really bothering you, and as long as you're getting your work done and you're taking care of your customers, it's like I wouldn't trade it for nothing. Being, you know, on the road every day and kind of doing your own thing, and as long as you're getting the job done, that's all that matters. Nobody bothers you if you're getting your work done and selling stuff or fixing things, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's huge for me. I've been doing it for for a long time now, I'll really be honest with you. And I kind of feel bad when I go to like I worked in an office space today, and I just see the environment that these people have to work in all day, every day.
Yeah, especially now.
I couldn't imagine it. I'm a very social person, but I also really like my time alone. And I think a lot of guys can attest, the older that you get, you know, you maybe get a little, not less social. I don't know how to exactly say it, but maybe you value your alone time a little bit more. Like when I deer hunt, I never, you know, people are like, how could you sit in a tree for like 12 hours? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I wish the day was longer so I could sit there longer. Like it's the only sucky part of it is how short the days are this time of year.
Exactly.
I enjoy all that. And then, you know, being by myself working and not having somebody stand over me is, it's just really nice. And I guess, you know, you have to be responsible for yourself, which I've been able to do for the most part. And, you know, nowadays with the video and phones and cameras and everything, you know, we get a work order done, attach a bunch of photos of your scope of work and everything being done, paperwork that has to be filled out and attached and everything. And then boom, you send that file back into the office, and it's like they were, you know, it's like, you know, for my service manager, it's like he's right there on the job.
Yeah. Oh, it makes their lives so much easier. And if you're neat and clean and tidy with the stuff you do, they don't need to talk to you. They don't need nothing. You're doing everything they need you to. So
yeah, it's simple, right? Don't make any more work for them.
Yeah.
It's kind of that easy. Like don't make them get a phone call from a customer because you didn't clean something up or something wasn't done right. Just try to exceed everybody's expectation. And now I'm fortunate that I have work under like good, like legit good leadership and management, family-owned company. My service manager is a ranger in the Army. Like he understands how to manage situations and people, good leadership from top down, and it just all works. You know, we have a lot of mutual respect for one another.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I've worked there for going on 3 years now, and there's only been like one shouting match, you know, and I think I don't know who enjoyed it more. I mean,
right. Yeah.
So
and I'm 33 and 34 now. And, you know, I've been with this company for almost 11 years, and I've done a lot of different things here. I've done a lot of, you know, had a lot of different experiences, and the guy I am now is so much more laid back than the guy I was even 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. And, you know, if you could go back and shake that, you know, 30-year-old you and say, dude, chill out. You know, you're just a young buck. What do you know about nothing? And, you know, but hey, those are times that you can't take back. But, you know, it's fun to reflect. And that's one of the things I get from listening to podcasts. I hear stories about people, whether it be military related stuff or other things. And I can immediately relate it to my day-to-day life and my job. And it's like, wow, yeah, you know, I was a little over the top when I was a manager at that point. I might have been a little hard and a little bit too much in the weeds on things. Like, you know, I think it's good to reflect on those things. And once you find yourself in a cherry spot, I mean, the job I have now, it's like, you know, I don't ever want it to end. I don't want my boss to leave. You know, he's an older guy, and he's just like what you're saying, like totally, you know, he manages, he lets me do my job, he stays out of the way. But like it, you know, it's always scary, you know, when you have somebody who's, you know, potentially towards the end of their career. It's like, yikes, like my job could totally change if I had somebody else in charge of me right now. But you kind of take it in and enjoy it while you got it, and hope to God that it stays the same. And if you're, like, goes back to the thing, if you're doing your shit, nobody's going to bother you. So, you know.
Yeah, you got to have a plan. My brother worked for, my brother's an electrician. He worked for a company for 14 years, and, then they changed ownership and he wanted out and he had to make a move and make a plan, and it was funny. We have a lot in common, but we're quite a bit different. And I think I had calculated that I had he had worked for my father, then went to school while working for my father, and then started his apprenticeship at this company and been at this company since he graduated, college. So he had been there for 14 years. And in that time period, including the jobs that I had when before he started at that shop, I think I had I've worked for like 17 employers, and he's worked for 2. And so it was a tough pill for him to swallow to have to move jobs and everything. And it's just, you got to be flexible and kind of have a plan. Nothing is forever, no matter how good it seems. And it's definitely a thing that I got to be conscious of right now because, we're in a pretty good position as far as, having our shit together. Me and my wife both have good jobs, good health. But, I'm coming into being 40, and with the cost of living nowadays and just thinking of, learned a lot over the course of the last couple of years, obviously, just like you can think, I don't know, something can happen and change the entire course that you're on. And you got to be flexible and be able to have a plan. So we're kind of trying to build out some assets right now with some real estate and do a couple different things so that I can deer hunt more when I get a little bit older.
I mean, so this last 2 years for you, how would you, I've been following along. So it feels like I know you. It feels like because I'm following right along with all your stuff and your thoughts on things. But, I can just say from my perspective, my wife and I, we had a baby in 2020, our second, and I can say right now, like, we're in a better spot today, financially, life-wise, everything. Like we kind of hunkered down and we stayed the course to everything we were doing with our financial planning, with all that sort of stuff throughout the pandemic, and we're in a better spot dramatically right now than we were, before the pandemic started. So I was just curious for you, like, how did that, all the changes and everything that started, in the spring of 2020, how did you guys fare through that? And I think you had a baby the fall of 2020, right? Or was that 21? That was 2020, right?
It was last year, so it was 21.
Oh, it was 21?
Yep, it was. So yeah, my wife was pregnant when all that started. Essentially, we had had a home, sold it, moved in with my mother-in-law for roughly a year. And we had been looking for to buy another home, and my wife ended up getting pregnant right as we had kind of put an offer in on this house that we found that we really liked. And we ended up getting in that house, moving in, and then, like, I don't know if it was a month later when all that went down, And so, they start sending people home from work, and my boss is, contacting us talking about, hey, they're not letting us into job sites. Like, we can't, the job sites aren't letting contractors in. So, like, we're not going to have work for you guys.
Right.
And I was like, you got to be shitting me. Like, I literally just emptied my savings, put a down payment on this house. That at the time was, quite a bit more than what I was really looking to spend, but it made sense. It was a beautiful home. The way that it was priced for what it was, I knew that it was kind of going to be a lockup deal as far as like being a good long-term investment. So we just made the move and did it. But at the time, like I said, it kind of dumped out our savings. And then all that hit, and then they're talking about not having work for us, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this can't be happening, right?" Given the fact that I was just, residing with my mother-in-law, had essentially, no bills. We were paying all her utilities and doing a few other things as far as that goes, but had complete financial freedom for if some type of apocalyptic scenario what was to happen. We were in a great situation in that regard, but it ended up working out just really good because we got locked into basically this brand new big house, which was, was kind of like, all right, well, this is kind of nice. We just got this place and there's nothing to do, but we got a brand new house to be in. So
yeah,
it was nice in that regard. And then what ended up happening is a lot of the technicians at my company that were older or had pre-existing health conditions, overweight, diabetic, smokers, you name it. Those guys were pretty sketched out about being in the hospitals. And real quickly, that first initial surge of COVID into the hospitals really did do a number on the hospitals. They're just getting flooded with people. They had to we had to build out temporary ICU space, put in temporary hand wash stations, showers, laundry, the laundry for all the bedding. There's so much that goes into
plumbing.
Like
so plumbing wise, you were probably busy right in that, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what it was. If a third of our guys took voluntary layoffs, because they didn't want to be, they didn't know what was going on. They didn't want to bring that back to their household. And I understood that. And then, like I said, the guys that had health conditions are like, whoa, this is sketchy. I'm going to sit back, see what happens. And one, I needed the money, and two, that would never be my personality. Is like, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. I'm more of like, get right in there and see what happens, I guess. So
get elbow deep and figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. And so I would end up working like 70 plus hours a week, like all winter.
Wow.
And then there was nothing to do really to spend money. So we were just banking. And then, they started sending out,
right.
Well, people say it's free money, but they were giving you about a 2% kickback on the taxes that they've taken from me over the course of the last 30 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they gave you that little breadcrumb to throw on top of all the money that we were saving. And yeah, it worked out. My wife had a great job and was able to work from home. And yeah, man, we came out, much better off. I do often think about when people talk about, it's expensive to have kids and this and that. I was like, I don't know, man. You play things right, I think it could be more expensive to not have kids, because the lifestyle that I lived before we had children involved a lot more going out and spending money than it does these days.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I were traveling. We were saving a little, but we were spending a lot. Like, if I want something, I went and bought it, boat and this and that. Like you just frivolously spent money. You have kids, and all of a sudden you kind of hunker down. And if anything, you're spending money on your house or, making improvements on things like that. But, especially when your kids are young, like, what are you spending money on? Diapers and food. That's it. You're not putting them through school or, sports programs or things like that, but
yep.
Yeah, I took this last year and a half, 2 years I look back at it and it's kind of hard to believe where we've been and where we are and that we're still in it. It's very frustrating in that, but I was just going to say, I feel bad for people who didn't take advantage of the opportunity to get ahead or to like better themselves. But, I don't feel bad for them because everybody had the opportunity. And, I think wherever you stand, if you can't look back at the last year and a half, 2 years and say, whether it's financially or you just, you bettered yourself educationally, you took advantage of the time you had to learn a new trade or do something, get a new hobby, a lot. And I guess that's one of the good things that came from it is all the new hunters. That's something that we spent a lot of time focusing on in the, throughout 2020 and into 2021 was just how many new hunters there were. And I got a bunch of new buddies, and I know you did a podcast, several podcasts this fall with, new guys in camp that were on their first hunts and first deer. And like, that's a huge thing for me that came out of the pandemic, is a lot of people that were finally like, yeah, I guess I'm going to try this thing that, I've been working on a couple of my buddies for a long time, and they just never wanted to do it because they had so much going on. and then they had no reason not to. And now they're my deer hunting buddies, which is pretty damn cool. But
yeah, I know everybody's situations are vastly different, right? I have a friend that owns a couple restaurants, and he's very fortunate that he had his shit dialed in before all that happened, because a lot of people in that industry really got screwed here in the state of Michigan. And I mean, for whatever reason, they've been targeted hard. They were basically forced to close down and not be able to generate income. And it's like, what the hell are you supposed to do? And in that regard, I was very fortunate to be in the service industry, and it definitely, it made me think that I hope young people are paying attention right now to what jobs are critical, because it speaks volumes about like who's going to be working and who is not going to be working. If the economy takes a shit, things get tough. It's like, it's good to have a skilled trade, and it's good to have a skill set, I guess, a flexibility about you. And if you're just kind of fixed into one little thing and that gets screwed up, man, it could be really tough. So it was a good reassurance for me that because I've done quite a few different lines of work, and I was in the plumbing trade, and I got out of it, and then I got back into it, and I'm glad that I kind of have settled into this now.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And what were they? That was a big thing at the beginning of the pandemic. It was what the hell did they call it? All the workers that were essential workers.
Employees.
Yeah, essential workers. Yeah, I can remember that. And all my buddies that were, linemen and guys like that, mechanics. My brother. So I got laid off because I'm not essential. I'm a salesperson. My brother's a mechanic. He got to work through the whole thing. So there was that. And but yeah. Anyway, and I guess that's kind of something I wanted to chat with you about. And I don't know if you have anything in direct you want to talk about. I figured I want to be cognizant of your time, and there's a million things I would like to talk to you about. We won't get them all tonight, obviously, but I've really enjoyed following along with you on stuff that's not even necessarily hunting related. It's just talking about kind of the way of the world and what's going on here in this country, and some of the things I think some people aren't maybe paying attention to or should be. I think you've done a great job of speaking about those things, whether it be pandemic related or, government related, military related. You kind of have a unique way of talking through those things. You've had some good guests and some very enlightening conversations around that stuff. That's one of the things I kind of wanted to shoot the shit a little bit about, was just a few of the different things that are on my mind that I've heard you say recently that I just kind of wanted to talk through, because they're things that are hot points right now in New York. And I think, our politics are fairly similar in New York and Michigan, in the way that they're run. And I guess probably one of the first things I want to talk about is renewable energy. That was something that you talked about. I don't know if it was within your last couple podcasts, but you had made a comment about wind turbines, and that's something here that we're seeing like a huge push right off the bat here in 2022, with our governors like trying to be the most revolutionary state in the union when it comes to green energy and electric vehicles and everything like that. And I just keep saying to myself, like, what the hell are we doing? Like, I feel like we're going down a road and forcing things when, number one, they're not ready, and number two, I don't know if they're the right option for our people. And so I guess first, I guess I'll just start with like renewable energy. Like, what are your thoughts on all that? Like, I know you listen to a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of stuff. I think we're fairly aligned here, but you know.
There's like good policy and bad policy, and it kind of encapsulates everything. That right now, I feel like people, if you're open-minded, you can watch in real time like good policy and bad policy and see what works and what doesn't and why that is. And if you're willing to dig down a little bit and investigate, you can kind of see why things work and why they don't. And the wind, the solar and the wind is a super inefficient way to well, I don't know if that's necessary. It is not even close to being stable enough to be the foundation of the energy that you need to power a nation. Not even close. Like, those are maybe some options to feed into the grid, but I don't know if they could generate, 15% of what you would need at optimum. And what that whole thing has become is the people that seem to make money off of those endeavors, paying out for political campaigns, and then those, in return they get contracts and policy pushed through that those guys are able to move in and sell their product and make money. Well, the average taxpayer just gets raked over the coals in every aspect because they're getting government they're not efficient. They've been getting subsidies for decades now.
Yeah.
Like, if it was just left to the free market, that stuff wouldn't exist. And I look at that and just scratch my head and say, how are people not vehemently against this, given the length of period of time that they've been trying to make it work? And it just doesn't. It's not efficient. All while the time they run active misinformation campaigns about, green energy and, we all can acknowledge that the climate is changing, and it always has, and it always will. And to think otherwise is really silly.
Yeah.
I think it's intelligent to recognize that we probably do impact that at some level, but what percentage actually is that? And then what measured steps can we actually do to minimize that? And obviously nuclear energy and carbon capture technology are two of the frontline things that would fix basically all of our issues. It would give us the power that we need in a super clean and efficient manner. It'd be reliable. As far as a conservationist goes, you're not destroying landscapes and ecosystems to put solar and wind all over, and then they don't require government subsidies to operate. They're efficient. And to watch these politicians that are trying to push solar and wind down everybody's throats, actively block legislation to advance nuclear, is you just know I don't know how you can't come to the mindset that, like, these people don't care about the environment. They care about paying out the people that are paying for for them to run for their next seat and get their next paycheck. It's hard to not see it, but I guess I'm kind of interested in it, and I paid attention to it for quite some time. And I noticed over the course of the last couple of years, is like, if I'm watching somebody on a hunting film or anything, my good friend Jared Scheffler, a Whitetail Adrenaline, hunts out west all the time, and on his videos they'll have these big wind turbines.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, that's so unsightful. Like, for me as a person that loves wilderness, to have to see those things all over the landscape. I've heard people say that they think they're cool. I could never see that. I think they're just horrendous.
Yeah. So I live in the town I live in. We've got, I don't know, we must have over 100 of them. We're out here, Wyoming County, off of Lake Erie, about probably 40 miles from the lake, 35 miles from the lake. And we're up on kind of on a plateau, and it's ideal for wind energy, and up here, I mean, it makes sense. The wind's almost always blowing, and, I'm sure it works. I'm sure it produces some, but it just goes back to the grid. We don't really see a whole lot of benefit of it here locally that we're aware of. We can go ahead and we can, sign up with our power company and say we're getting energy from the windmills or whatever, but it is pretty damn handy as a deer hunter, because you can walk out the door and look up on the ridge and see which direction the windmills are blowing. What the wind's doing. But aside from that, it's it is kind of noisy. It's there's noise pollution. There's it takes up some space. But like the all the things you said about wind is accurate, and I feel the same way. And I think as you start to live more around it, and you start to learn more about how, I think the biggest thing that really has turned me and it really like opened my eyes was what happens when these leases are up. And that's a huge concern of mine. Just looking at where I live and looking at what's going on in New York State is that we have such a trend of all these tracts of land being converted into solar right now. And, you know, and I've seen it happen with the turbines, and I've seen stuff online about where do they go once they're done, you know, once the blades crack and stuff like that. You know, they're just going and they're literally building mountains of wind turbine blades out wherever they're taking these things. They can't get rid of them. They don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
You know, so
right.
it's just waste. Like, it's what's better, the wind you're turning energy into, or is it better to use all this energy and this raw material to put these things together, have them sit up in the air and create noise pollution and you know, disrupt things and change the environment a little bit in their area. And then when they're done, they just throw them in a heap and make a mountain out of them and cover them in dirt and just pretend that nothing happened. But then what goes on here, so there's been a big push. There was a big push right at the beginning of 2020, right in our township here, that there was a company that was coming in looking to do a huge solar project. And, you know, for them, it looked like an ideal place because it's all ag land, and we've already got the power, all the main lines and everything run to handle the power generated by the wind turbines. So they looked at that and said, hey, look, here's a great area to come into and put solar panels, and it's, you know, wide open territory, yada, yada. But I was very intrigued by all of it when I was listening to their sales pitch. I went to the town hall meeting, and once it got to the point where, you know, it's like, okay, so it's a 35-year contract, right? So you're going to fence off my in-laws' 100-acre field and put up solar panels, and we're going to make a shitload of money for 35 years. But then what? And it's like, oh, well, then the lease is up and we're out of town. It's like, so you're just going to leave them and leave the fence, and you're going to leave the solar panels, and we can't do nothing with it. It's like, well, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it, but yes, we're out of town. And it's like, how does that, like, I was talking to somebody today, it's like, how does it, you know, I'm like torn because I do care about the environment. I consider myself a conservationist and an environmental, I don't know if I'd say environmentalist, but I'm in tune with, I want the best for the environment. I want to leave it better than I found it, you know? And I don't know is that we're doing that. I see the direction that things are going, and I'm like, we're literally taking prime natural habitat and we're literally ruining it by putting up shit that is not natural that you're eventually just going to leave there to rot.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument for, as far as that goes, is if you're an environmentalist or conservationist, and I suppose I think Stephen Ranella or Matt, or one of the Ranellas said, you know, a conservationist is an environmentalist with a gun. And so you're basically the same group of people or have the same objective, right? Protect the landscape. And
yeah.
You can't tell me that you're trying to protect the landscape and vote in favor of putting that stuff all over it. Just doesn't pass the smell test for me.
No,
you know?
It doesn't. No, and I guess I want to talk about these things, and that's one of the things that I'm challenging myself going into 2022 with this podcast, is I want to have more of these discussions that aren't just, because you can only talk about deer hunting. There's so many people talking about it. You can only do so much of that. And it's like with these platforms, with these podcasts, like with you have and what I'm building, is like you have a community of people that are listening and tuning in, and I feel like it's our responsibility to talk about some of these topics. And I'm not saying that you're right or I'm right or somebody else is wrong. It's just you have to be thinking about this stuff holistically, and, you know, what does it look like long term? You know, we're making all these wild decisions right now, and what's that going to do for, you know, I look back to my childhood and the things that I cherish and I enjoyed doing. And it's like, what's that going to look like for my kids once they, you know, in 3, 4, 5 years? It's fucking nuts. It's like, where are we going to be? And I think it's important to discuss these things. And I don't know what to do, Kevin, because I feel like a lot of this stuff, it's beyond our control, but it freaking bothers the hell out of me. Like seeing some of these, you know, these projects and these initiatives and these things that are essentially, there's no discussion. It's going to happen. You're going to like it and start looking at solar panels. Like, what the hell do you do? You know, I mean, other than talk about it and try to make people aware and go to meetings, but aside from that, I don't know what the hell you do because you're up against some huge money. I guess that's the thing. Like there's decisions being made at levels that I don't know if we can influence.
Yeah, it's a big ship, and big ships turn real slow. You know, I wouldn't expect anything to happen overnight, but I think that ship is actually turning, to be honest with you. I just saw a poll yesterday in regards to the popularity of nuclear energy. I don't know. I can't remember who the poll was through, but it was there was like a 14% increase, even with left-leaning politicians, people that identify or are registered as Democrats. Nuclear is up 14% in just 1 year, and I forget what the other number was, substantially larger, right? Because obviously the left side of the political aisle have been the ones that are really pushing the solar and the wind. So to see that number, grow that quickly in that short period of time kind of tells me like, and there's some real smart people that understand this stuff at a high level that are talking about it on giant platforms and getting a ton of attention. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what you got to do. It's not, I know a lot of people maybe aren't interested in it, and it's not that sexy, but I talked to Tony Peterson, who is on the Meat Heater crew now, just about the podcast content stuff. And he's like, no, he's like, you're, not necessarily saying me, but like the right thing to do is to get off topic and talk about the important stuff. He's like, people don't need to listen to, a year's worth of telling you how to get on a buck bed and find a scrape and a rub.
Right.
He's like, your target audience is male 20 to 50. These are the people that need to be, making decisions and putting pressure where pressure needs to be put as a large group to kind of steer the ship. So the more people that are talking about it, I think the better. And 2-3 years ago, I don't think I had a great understanding of energy. Actually, I kind of bought into a lot of the fabricated, the smoke screen of what energy and how we should be handling it, kind of moving forward, and all that stuff has changed with me quite a bit. So, yeah, is it sexy for everybody to listen to? Maybe not, but is it actually what matters and is important? I mean, yeah, I think about, I want my kids to have at least as good of a life as I had, if not better.
Yeah.
And so what am I doing right now on a kind of day-to-day basis? How am I impacting the people that I associate with? One thing that I've really, I've always had, I guess you'd call it a temper. I was never fearful of confrontation at like the highest level. And so I've had to figure out how to dial back and have conversations, not escalate to the point where the person just thinks I'm an asshole. Because I care to a point where I really do think that this stuff's so important that I'm like, man, if I have a chance to have this person kind of see through some of the BS that they're being fed and how they don't understand this, if I can get 1 out of 100 people to kind of look at it with an open mind, then that's something that I'm willing to do. So that's something I've been working on for quite some time now, is especially on the social media front, is figuring out how to better communicate with people. And I feel like I'm doing a good job, because a lot of times I'll be on it would be in like an open post, and there'd be guys, maybe going back and forth or whatever, and something will be said, and I'll get a private message just saying like, hey, I appreciate you being respectful. And it just seems like people have a hard time nowadays doing that. The internet sucks for communicating.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to do a better job and just be more responsible and not, default to just being an asshole and thinking that I'm right. Nah, honestly, I'm very open these days to being proven wrong. And, I love finding out that I was wrong, because that's like an opportunity to grow and be right in the future. So, I do care a lot about these things, to the point as where it's like, and the fact that, we do have a platform where we talk to thousands of people every week. It's like, man, if I can make a little bit of an impact, I'd like it to be for the better, not for the worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to that. And I think there's a lot of people that are thinking a lot of these things, but they don't know how to discuss it, or they don't feel comfortable discussing. I think that's one thing that's come from that drives me nuts. Because of my line of work, and yours is similar. You're not selling, but you're out interacting with people all over the damn place every day. And like, I have a hard time finding people that don't see things the way that I do. And I'm dealing with men, women, different races, genders. And like, I can't find people that don't see the world pretty similar to the way that I do. So then I'm, I see what's going on around us, and I'm like, what? I'm like totally thrown sideways by it, because, so then I feel like I have and I said something to I don't know if I said it to my dad or I said to somebody, I've been listening to, I listen to Rogan. Seems like everybody listens to Rogan. And some of these discussions he's been having lately, like, I feel like I know a dirty secret. And I'm like, how do I have these discussions with people around me that don't listen to this and that don't believe that this shit is actually going on? It's like eating me up inside. Like, I know something that other people don't, and what the hell do I do with that information? There is a lot of people listening to that, which is great, and it's good, and I think you're right. I think it is starting to turn the ship in a lot of ways, but there's still a shit. I mean, that's 11 million people an episode, or 40 million, or whatever it is. That's just dropping the bucket to the U.S. population. But you feel the same way, where it's like you hear some of these things and you read some of this stuff and you're like, are people not paying attention to what's going on around them?
There's a couple things. A lot of what you see is on the internet, and the internet's not real. It's all manipulated.
It's all real.
It's all manipulated with algorithms to make it look like things are more popular than what they are, and other things that are popular are not popular and fringe. But like, I'll just give this as a stellar example, is like all the they've been talking now 2 years, just banging this drum on the racial tension in this country.
Mm-hmm.
I work probably primarily around African American, in African American communities. I've worked inner city for over a decade. I've worked in Miami, in Chicago, and in Detroit, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. Like, I feel like people even hearing that just want to double down on being respectful and nice to each other. Like, I can't even imagine that, like, anybody our age, like, their driving factor of their lives is to wake up every morning and be racist. Like, have a actual thought in their head that they're going to treat someone differently because of their color of their skin or their ethnicity. Is just like, we're so far removed from that, and it's such nonsense. And I see the reality of it as, I'm like, this is such a crock of shit. And but you go online or turn on the news, and they, you'd think that, people are having race wars in the streets and shooting each other down. You'd think it's the complete opposite. And that just is an example of, and that happens kind of across the spectrum right now. So I think that's one thing is that I've gotten better at here in the last year, is being able to manage, like, what I see and the emotions that get invoked to me through anything that comes through that phone or any of these social media apps. And then, you can be on there and just negative post after negative post after negative post, and think that, the whole world's ending. And then you shut the phone off and walk outside, and the sun's out and kids are running around, and it's just like, no, everything's actually really awesome. Like, we're super fortunate to live in the time and in the country that we do. We have to be cognizant of all the things that are going on so that we make sure that we're voting for good policy that moves this thing forward and protects it for future generations. But yeah, it's just one example that I can attest to and just say, like, God, it's just the perception versus reality is so insane. The COVID thing is a prime example of it as well. You know, we talked about that initial surge that happened in the hospitals, and that was a zoo. I mean, that really was chaos and crazy and a really weird, eerie scene for a good 6-week period. It was friggin' hardcore, man. And it actually like got to me. At one point I was just like, Jesus Christ, man, I don't need to see another dead body today. Like, this shit is wearing on me. And you know, luckily that resided pretty quickly. And by by June of, you know, the onset of the pandemic, you know, the hospitals, they weren't emptied out, but they were pretty much back to like a normal standard capacity. I mean, that first initial surge swept through hard and fast, and it I mean, the nursing homes was the biggest you know, debacle, obviously, here in our state and
Same
in
here.
your state.
Yeah.
But once it worked through that, it pretty quickly settled down. And the fact that there's still, I mean, dude, we don't watch like the traditional legacy media, whatever you want to call it. We don't digest any of that. But I go to the gym, and in the locker room they'll have that stuff on, or sometimes we'll go to a restaurant where they'll have a television on, and I'll just like, I can't help but like for 5 minutes just look and see, and it's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it's just such BS. And I'll tell you, that was a big thing for me. You know, that first summer, I was on call, ran an emergency call, was sitting down outside the hospital doing some paperwork. And I was literally just came out of working in the ICU. And I was talking with, you know, the nurse on the floor, and I kind of asked how everything was going. And she said that they were at, they were around like 20% capacity.
Yeah.
You know, and things were going real good. And I opened a news article from like Click on Detroit, and it was talking about how that hospital, that exact hospital that I just walked out at, was over, you know, over capacity. And it, you know, they made it sound like it was some big, you know, dramatic scene. And it was like, this is 100% bullshit.
Yeah.
And that was like a big point for me, where I was like, all right, you got to be like super careful about what you're reading and looking at nowadays, because it just could be grossly inaccurate. And so, yeah, the fact that they're still just hounding on that, it's hard to not see that they have alternative motives.
Yeah. And we're seeing that with, you know, my wife dealt with the same thing. She got laid off for 3 months when I did, because the hospital was dead. She's a physical therapist. She works on people that come into the hospital for strokes and major health issues. Apparently those things just stopped happening, Kevin, because like her floor and they laid off half of the staff in the hospital. It was just nothing happening, you know? And, but even now, you know, we're starting to see some of that stuff now, where they're talking about how, you know, now the hospitals are so busy, but it's like, hospitals are meant to be busy. They need their beds filled. They don't want empty, because that's how the hospitals make money. That's how they staff properly. That's how they want it to be. They want their census to be, you know, 80 to 90%. They don't want to be 100, because then you have no room for anything else. But that's normal operating, you know.
It's like a hotel.
Yeah,
it's no different, really. I mean, their business model is similar to a hotel. Like, if you have a hotel with a bunch of empty rooms, it's not going to be very profitable.
No.
A hospital is the same way. It's designed to be full of people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the fact that they keep talking about that and people don't understand that that's like the business model.
Yeah.
is just like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And then obviously they do have an issue, right now. They're having staffing issues, but that's self-induced.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
when you force people out of the workplace, and then you can't force people out of the workplace and then complain about having labor shortages.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You created the bad policy that caused this situation.
Yeah.
So,
and we're seeing that it's in every industry, in everything. And I'm sure you see it in your day-to-day life. And it's something that I'm witnessing it. It almost gets to the point where it's just downright depressing, because seeing what people have to do, I work in schools, you work a lot in hospitals, and you see the things that people are still having to do every single day, and how much of a burden that puts on them. And they're like, people are done, and they are wore out. They're exhausted. I see it with my own father. My dad and my mom work together at the same school in the transportation department. They're freaking shot. And it's been 2 years of this. And before that, it was still challenging. The day-to-day was still a difficult job, but it was survivable. But now it's just, so people have had it, and people are ready for this to be over. And I find this whole thing to be fascinating right now with the whole COVID end of things, because it's the worst it's ever been. If you want to look at the actual, how many people have tested positive, my whole family caught it a week ago. Everybody's getting it. If you haven't had it, you're getting it. Even if you've got it, you're getting it again. It's and it's nothing. It's a cold. It's the flu, and they're shutting everything down. We've never done this before. It was my number one concern in the beginning when we made it, like you said, through that first surge. That was scary as hell, because we didn't know what it was. And as we began to learn what it was and what it is, now it's like we set a precedent. And now are we gonna handle the flu this way? Are we gonna handle, when the stomach bug is bad and you got freaking 20 kids in one class out? Are you gonna close the whole wing of the school down because you got the stomach bug? It's like you set a precedent for the way things are going to be handled, and you can't live life that way. And there's a lot of people that are so freaked out by it, and then you've also got the other people that just are trying to do their job, and it just makes life a living hell. And for those that don't have to deal with that stuff, we're fortunate. Like, I'm pretty fortunate. My job, I'm on the road every day. I do what I want. It doesn't really bother me. It didn't really change my life. But for people that have to work in that shit every day, it's brutal. It's freaking brutal.
Right.
And I don't see an end in sight in the immediate future, but I do see, like you said, I do see the ship turning, and I think there's a lot of really interesting discussions that are starting to hit the mainstream. And the mainstream is not the historical mainstream. The mainstream is now Joe Rogan podcast, these different podcasts that are out there that people are listening, and they're like, what? Okay, so what is this? What are we doing? And I think it's important. That's why I think it's keep having an open mind and looking at these things and taking in different thoughts. And I like to listen to podcasts and discussions with people that don't align with me politically, because I want to understand what other people are thinking. And I think that's healthy. I think you got to look at all sides of things and try to understand that stuff. But
yeah, the internet kind of changed the whole game, as far as like a certain group of people being able to control the messaging. It's been that way for throughout history. A certain group of people could control the messaging, and the internet threw a pretty big hitch in that giddy up. So they're struggling to try to figure out how to maintain that. And obviously, sources like Rogan are so open and accessible, and you find out good information. You can kind of see how a lot of the craziness revolves around that kind of that battle for that messaging. So what you'd think everybody right now would be applauding and be super happy that in a relatively short period of time, what was a very kind of a dangerous respiratory disease on the onset of it just at 2 years ago has really kind of petered its way out. It seems to be pretty quickly, have like almost no mortality rate or even being, putting people in the hospital. Kind of wiped through, I think, who it was going to wipe through, and it seems like it's gotten quite a bit weaker. I'm pretty confident I just had the Omicron variant. I'd be shocked if I didn't. I'm pretty sure that just went through my household.
What were
And
you guys dealing with?
It's the symptoms that are on a bottle of NyQuil or DayQuil. It's it to a T.
Yeah. We had wicked sinus, like not wicked, but we had sinus pressure headaches.
Yeah. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like a bad head cold, scratchy throat. I never had a fever or that. It was just, And, you're seeing that kind of across the board with everybody right now. I was like, hell yeah. Like, let's get back to it.
Yep.
Like, this is cool. People aren't getting sick and dying at a crazy clip right now. Like, let's get back to rocking and rolling. And you see the other group of people that are like, no, everybody stay inside and be scared. And we're going to control every aspect of your life. And it's like, it's so easy at this point to see through.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for people that are just like still hung up and haven't got it figured out that at the highest level, they think like government is, I just don't understand how you could like look at like public roads and like inner city policy and see how like there's not like they don't always have your best interest involved. They got other priorities, and obviously at this point with this, it's just like they kind of want to keep their foot on the gas and not let off of the ground that they've made. But really, what everybody should universally be applauding is the fact that this thing didn't turn into something that's getting a higher mortality rate. It's the latter. It happened real quick, and we should just kind of be putting it on the board, just like other viruses, rhinoviruses, influenza, all that stuff that we've dealt with throughout history, and getting back to a normal life.
Yep. That is the goal. That's what we want. That was kind of the two things I wanted to touch on with you. But in that vein, I wanted to hear kind of what the podcasts are, who you're following, what you're listening to. That was one of the big things I wanted to gather from you, because I think I gather from you who those people are, but I think it's valuable for our listeners to hear kind of who you're listening to, who I'm listening to get a lot of my news and information. So I'm curious kind of who you're following along with on a day-to-day basis, like who's on your Spotify app that you're tuning into.
Sure. I listen to quite a bit of different stuff, be honest with you. But probably two of the people that I pay closer attention to as far as like really listening to what they're saying and trying to get a grasp on like how to help myself be better, and then in turn help the people around me be better and just be able to communicate better. One is Dan Crenshaw. He has a podcast called Hold These Truths.
Mm-hmm.
He's a congressman out of Texas. And I just think he's a very well-balanced individual, very intelligent. He's got a good sense of humor, so he's fun to listen to. He has great guests. He talks a lot about energy, and that's where I've learned a lot of the energy stuff that I have. I don't understand it to a point where I can explain it well,
right?
But those guys break it down to a point where I can understand it and at least figure it out for myself. So he's a huge one. I listen to Jocko Willink has a couple different podcasts. I listen to him pretty religiously. Like that guy's very motivating, very cool, calm, and collect. Just an outstanding role model. Someone that I feel like, the more you listen to him, you feel like that guy. Yep. Whereas like you feel like, man, I wouldn't want to let that guy down. I wouldn't want him to know that I skipped my workout today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jocko's going to find out and come over here at 4:43 to kick my ass.
To be honest with you, so those are two big guys. Tim Kennedy is another person that I kind of pay close attention to. Mm-hmm. Complete monstrous badass, but like humanitarian at the highest level, and super intelligent guy. So I pay close attention to him. And then, yeah, obviously, like you said, everybody kind of listens to Rogan. And then I listen to a bunch of deer hunting podcasts, man. I listen to the Big Woods Bucks, Hal Blood guys. They're out of Maine.
Yep.
My buddy Byron Horton has the Whitetail Experience. I listen to his podcast pretty frequently. Okayest Hunter, my friend Greg and Eric out of Wisconsin. And then
Curtain Your
Jason
Outdoors podcast.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, dude, I don't know how long you guys have been putting podcasts out, but I feel like I've been asking people like weekly, like, hey, what are the hunting podcasts that you're listening to? Because I feel like I'm missing out on so many of them because, like, man, before I started doing this, there was like a handful,
right.
Like honestly, like maybe a handful, like a half dozen. And now I don't know what that number is, but I bet you it's
got to be 5,000-10,000. I don't know. Maybe that's high, but I'm guessing at least 1,000.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna say that it's probably in the thousands.
Yeah.
So to see it grow that fast and that quick, I'm oftentimes telling people like, hey, tell me what you're listening to because I feel like a lot of times I'm missing out on stuff. So, and then, yeah, man, I don't know. I kind of bounce around quite a bit. And I don't know. I'll listen to some real estate stuff. My wife's big into real estate, so she sends me a lot of real estate podcasts. I listen to some real estate podcasts. So,
have you listened to the Dark Horse podcast at all?
I have listened to bits and pieces of it, but I do not listen to it religiously.
Yeah, that's one that's become like a weekly listen for me, just because I've been following Brett and his wife along throughout this last 2 years, and they've just kind of been a very informative. Like that's who I'm intrigued by right now. Like I love listening to scientists, like people that are literally studying the science of these things, and I'm extremely intrigued by anybody who's being silenced. That's like a beacon.
That's a red flag.
Yeah,
right?
That's like a beacon going off. That's like, I might want to listen to and you can decide pretty quickly whether this person's a wacko or if they've got some very interesting stuff. And if you follow any of these folks long enough, you start to see the things that they've been saying for better part of 2 years, but we'll just say a year. A lot of this stuff starts becoming true. Or you start actually seeing it, come to fruition.
I mean, it's. So
I've been listening to them. I would recommend Dark Horse podcast. I really like listening to them. I don't know if you've heard of Real AF with Andy Frisella. Have you heard of that show?
I have not.
That's a pretty freaking badass, hardcore American, like gets you fired up and want to run through the door. Andy's like a no bullshit guy. I had my buddy who went to high school with, he's actually a financial planner, but he turned me on to that podcast back over the summer. And now it's like anything he puts out, I'm listening because he's just hammering on people and he's just right on point. It's an awesome show. Yeah.
That's cool. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah.
That's kind of stuff I'm into.
Yeah. And it's quick. Like he does some quick shows. He does these he's been doing these Cruise the Internet shows, which are cool. He picks like three top, like his co-host, producer, whatever, picks like 3 different news articles and just reviews that, just says the headlines, and then Andy just goes off on them. It's pretty entertaining. So you kind of get a feel what's going on, the pulse of things. But then what's the other one I was going to tell you about? Oh, I dip in a little bit here and there, but we talked a little bit about the environmental stuff. And I've subscribed to the Jordan B. Peterson podcast. I don't listen to every one of them because some of his stuff is just too deep for me.
Sure.
I can't get into it. But he had a discussion with that Bjorn Lumberg, I think his name is, or something along those lines. A guy from he's from UK, I think. And they were talking about and they were talking environmental stuff. And he was on the Crenshaw show a while back too. That Bjorn was, and just fascinating insight and discussion. So yeah, like those are some of the things that I'm tuning into as well that are. And just like you, I'm listening to a lot of different deer hunting podcasts and things that are helping kind of keep me informed there. But, I'm also looking to better myself and educate and find other things that I can become informed and better knowledgeable on too. So,
yeah, Jordan Peterson is an outstanding, person to follow and pay close attention to what he says. And a lot of times I have to re-listen to what said to kind of put it together and gather it all. But yeah, wicked intelligent individual. So I couldn't agree more with that. He's definitely one of those guys that has impacted my life for the positive.
Yeah, no doubt.
Dude, sorry, I don't know if my mic is if you're hearing like a weird noise. I'm spooling up some ice fishing rods for Saturday.
You got some ice?
Yeah, I think we are going to have some ice that's going to be worth getting out on this weekend. So
Nice.
I bought my kid a new ice fishing pole for Christmas, and it's been sitting here on my desk for the last couple weeks. We've been waiting for colder weather and temperatures, so I thought, while I'm wrapping this up, I might as well get this done so that I don't have to do it Saturday morning.
Yeah, it looks like you guys probably the same. We've got some cold weather coming here. Looks like for the next 7 to 10 days, we
finally going to get some winter weather.
I know. So I was driving by one of the Finger Lakes today, and there was a shitload of people out ice fishing. I don't know about how good the ice was because you went about 200 yards north of them, and it was open water, but they were out there fishing. So it's about that time. I guess when you get it, you got to get on it because it doesn't always stick around that long. But
yeah, I'm fortunate here where I live. I live just at the on Lake St. Clair, essentially biggest freshwater delta in the entire world. So we have some world-class fisheries, and I live about 1 mile off of the lake, and
that's awesome.
Have quite a few family members that live off of different parts of the lake. I've got some pretty unique and awesome access. So yeah, we enjoy the hell out of ice fishing, and we're going to be getting out there here this weekend. And then, yeah, once we kind of get into that rhythm, we'll be doing a lot of that here for the coming weeks. Me and my brother and my cousins, we've kind of all got a group of kids that are around the same age. And yeah, ice fishing is just, the kids love it. I don't know what. And I remember as a kid, just enjoying that as much as about anything. And it seems like I'm seeing that with our kids too. So we're going to try to get them out as much as possible here over the course of the next couple weeks and month, and try to keep our wives, sane.
Give them some time.
Get these young boys out of they don't belong in houses.
Hell no. No, that's been the worst part of the last 7 days here. My wife is just wrapping up her quarantine, and I'm out. I'm done. But my son he's just, you can't get him to bed at night. He's got so much. He's 3.5, almost 4. He'll tell you he's 4, and he's just, we can't run him tired. And the weather's been so rough here that we really can't get out and do a whole lot outside. So it's freaking brutal.
Yeah, it is. It's rough it sucks for them. And then in turn it ends up sucking for for us, because I was like, man, I'm laying on the floor, I'm dead, just wiped out from the day, and my kid's like, hey, do you mind if I run around the living room to get some of my energy out? And I'm like, dude, go for it.
Yeah
So
you gotta love it. Well, I appreciate the hell out of your time. I know it's valuable, and as fathers we don't get a ton of it to ourselves, so I appreciate you spending some time with me tonight and our listeners chatting. And we did not get into any hunting stuff, which is totally fine. We can't talk about everything at once, but I'd love to get you back on here again sometime in the future. We could reconnect and talk about things other than stuff that's not that much fun to talk about. We all love to talk about hunting. That's why I have a hunting podcast. So it would be fun to connect with you another time to chat more about that. But this is something you were the guy that I've been wanting to talk to about these sort of things, because I value your insight and your thoughts on this. So I appreciate you sharing those with us tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you saying that. And like I said, I'm just trying to grow as an individual, and, by circumstance, have a platform where we have these conversations, that are available to basically anybody that's willing to listen to them. And I definitely don't always think that I'm right. And I guess that's not even my objective. I'm more just trying to get some shit figured out. And so, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that stuff. And I'd love to get back together here and over the course of the off season, and you know, we could talk deer hunting, or we could talk about any other things that we care to at that point in time. So yeah, it works out good, man. My beer's just about empty, and I'm ready to go in and get some sleep. So it worked out great.
Beautiful. All right, Kevin. Thanks, buddy. We will. I'll post this up on Friday just so you know when it drops, and appreciate you. So.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Good
Stay
deal.
well.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a good night.